Hello again, world. Continuing the story of X, and for the quick summary, this is after X's boss gives X the email in regards to the performance for the issue of the servers and massive call volumes. So X will go through and let you know about the circumstances and the scenario surrounding the situation. So it just so happens that X happens to work the second shift, pretty much from noon and after. And with the performance that boss was talking about, that there are people that work the morning shift, the noon shift, and the evening shift. And so, of course, with the numbers on par for that day, just so happens that X's stats was in the mid 20s, which was pretty average for everyone else. There was only a handful of other reps that were in the 40 to 50 for the number of call volumes, and the average time was in the 9 to 12 minutes for that. Now, keep in mind that the massive call volumes all day, the people who work in the morning will be more likely the ones to get the 40 to 50 call volumes, due to when clients and employees going into work, if there's a system down, if they can't log in, of course they'll be the ones to be calling in. So the ones who will be receiving those calls is, of course, the reps that takes the calls in the morning. Now, of course, X comes in around lunchtime, and of course during the lunchtime there's not as many calls. So the next big wave is usually around the 2 to 3 after lunch, and maybe in the 4 o'clock when pretty much everyone else is trying to go home for the day. Then after that, the evening hours. So those are pretty much the peak time that X has to work with as far as getting calls. And given the circumstances there, the stats shows that the average was around 20 some calls, and X met that. The average call was in the 9 to 12 minute range. X was in the 10-minute range. And it did happen that X did have some long calls for during the first few hours. So X only has like basically 4 to 5 hours out of the day to catch up with everyone else, with only limited peak times. And with that, X is also trying to provide quality customer service by keeping clients and customers happy by resolving the customer's issues. So X did resolve the customer issues, even if there were some long calls, perhaps averaging in the 20 or so minutes. So X gets called out on that. One of the supposedly representative leads sends X a simple instant message saying that, I know you're trying to help, but there are some calls holding. So X mentions that X will be mindful of that and continue to assist. In Boss's email, Boss goes that another team lead had to speak with X for X to see how X's improvement changed after X was being spoken to. having a simple reminder doesn't necessarily count as being spoken to or consulting or coached in X's eyes for that. So if I was in X's position, I wouldn't think of that as being spoken to or talked to. Simple reminder of, hey, we got people on the phones. Okay, if I was in that case, alright, I will keep that in mind and I will go forward and be more mindful and try to take more calls if I was in X's position. So, with that being the case, that was the faulting that X's boss is faulting X on, X's performance, when the stats shows that X was on par with everyone else. So X doesn't really understand the argument that boss is trying to make. And two, X's position is to be a competent support rep, to be able to assist and resolve the client's issue. Now, if they want to have X be an operator, they need to damn well say so. And just log calls and escalate over so that the next rep or senior rep can go through and take care of that issue. But with them stressing customer service and wanting to get first call resolutions and closing calls on the first call without having to escalate it, it's kind of hard to balance that out. And that's the problem here with it being the fine line and the gray area. And with the rep supposedly trying to keep the calls and the troubleshooting under 10 to 15 minutes, one has to go through and examine the situation here. That one, it depends on the rep's technical capabilities. Two, it depends on the environment and infrastructure of the network and the technology. Three, it depends on the competency of the user, the clients, and of course, being in the environment that it is, X understands that the users will not be totally technology competent. So it's working with clients that aren't really technology savvy with the infrastructure and with X's own technological competency to be able to assist and provide support. So with that, it's a gray area that balances out time, balances out the situation, trying to resolve the issue and trying to make customers happy. So with that, going on towards my 9 minutes here, and I will follow up with that in the next segment.